There's so much more that you can do with AI, not just on your website, but with your content production, content workflow, or just within your organization. When people think of AI these days, they typically think of things like generative AI, like ChatGPT, Claude. They also think about things like chatbots or chat assistants, virtual assistants, and I want to cover just a handful of things that you might find useful or interesting. Automated content tagging or taxonomy management. There's so much you can do to automate your tagging and taxonomy workflow on your website. You can have your AI automatically tag content or manage other aspects of your taxonomy. How many hours have we all spent in the past not just tagging our content, but having to remove dozens and dozens of synonyms or combined tags or things that have sort of exploded in complexity over the months and years that we've all managed websites, having to reorganize things and recategorize stuff. You can have your AI manage a lot of that stuff for you. And in fact, at some point in the future, I imagine that we're going to be working with taxonomies in very different ways, where we're no longer thinking of taxonomies as these very discrete, pared down, highly curated things of maybe a few dozen terms, but in fact we sort of embrace the idea of a taxonomy of many hundreds or thousands of terms, and we're each using the terms that make most sense to us because it's perfectly acceptable to have many synonyms or many duplicates of terms and of taxonomies, because the AI handles a lot of that for us. It knows that 2 words or 20 words are basically the same thing, and it makes perfect sense. And it just knows to deliver all of the content related to that taxonomy term. Accessibility. There's a lot that AI can do to assist with accessibility compliance. I've already mentioned tagging, taxonomy management. Tagging content can help, but also handling transcripts of audio and video. AI can also auto-generate alt text and captions, or generate suggested alt text and captions for the editor to further edit or validate. You can use AI to improve your content in myriad ways. You can use AI to detect the reading comprehension level of your content to better target your audience. You can use it to enforce your university or brand's voice and tone and other guidelines. You can use it to provide a summary at the top of a long piece of content, either in the form of a short abstract or maybe a list of bulleted key takeaways. You can amplify your content output, or in other words, multiply your content output. You can also use AI to rewrite some of your content for different audiences. So let's say you have a press release that your marketing communications team put together about a fundraising event that you have coming up in a couple of months, but you need to repurpose that for, say, some incoming students. You could have AI rewrite that for a different type of audience, given the correct prompt. You'll still want a human editor, of course, to look that over before it's sent out, but you can very quickly rewrite for different audiences and different contexts and purposes using AI. And finally, you can translate content into other languages using AI. Maybe you have a podcast episode. You could use AI to write a transcript that then becomes a blog post, and then that blog post becomes a newsletter, and that newsletter becomes a series of 3 or 4 social posts. AI is increasingly being used to recommend content as a recommendation engine. It used to be that engineers would have to sit down and write all kinds of complicated database queries to present recommended content to people. Now that may show up in the form of, think Netflix. Once you finish a movie or a TV episode or something, the credits roll, the thing shrinks into the corner, and you see a lot of suggested content. We've all seen some version of that on a website where there are, related articles at the bottom of an article that you're reading. that is a form of suggested content. But there are also other forms of suggested content that maybe aren't so obvious. Perhaps you are a nonprofit that focuses on giving to lots of local organizations. And if somebody gives $20 or $50 or $100 to a local nonprofit, maybe you want to suggest that they give to other local nonprofits as well. And once they're in the checkout process, or maybe after they've donated to that local nonprofit, they are presented with options to donate to more local nonprofits. Well, you want them to be as relevant to that nonprofit as possible, right? You could, for example, have a lot of complicated database queries and information that relate to tagging and all kinds of other things, and that has to be very manually curated by people. Or you could rely on AI to start to make inferences between different charities and nonprofits and other groups and how they are related. It's just a lot easier to use AI to present suggestions and related content in those instances than it is to try to maintain some kind of database of related content. Plus, there is the advantage of AI providing some degree of randomness into the equation. We've all had the experience of visiting websites where the related content or the suggestions that we see at the end of a page start to repeat themselves over and over again, and we get the feeling that there's not a lot going on that website. The well has kind of run dry and there's not much more to see here. But with AI, there is this element of there's always a little bit of something new, a little bit kind of random thrown in there. And so it always sort of feels new, like you haven't quite reached the end of it. There's always something new to see, and that's always a benefit. If you'd like to learn more about interesting ways that you can use AI at your organization, connect with us at 4kitchens.com.